Tonight's session is about essential skills for early career, and then it's targeted to most of, like I'll say, the majority of our community members, because most of them are either college students or early graduates and who are just starting their careers or hoping to start their careers very soon. So before we go to our session or our speaker, I'd just like to introduce Kraado to you. If you don't know Kraado, Kraado is a gamified platform where we validate skills that you've picked from school, you've picked from previous jobs and no other. So what you do is you just join us, you take internships and projects, and then you accumulate work points. We also have other I would say programs that we are using to boost the skills of our community members, like the Kraado Learn session and the new Kraado Coach program. We'll talk more about it. You can pick up projects and then accumulate work points. So we're just saying build experience and confidence with us. Now, we love to hear about who we have with us in our chat box. So if you could introduce yourselves, that would be really nice. But as you are introducing yourselves, let me just introduce our speaker, our amazing resource person who is ready to share his experience and insights with us this evening. He's in the person of Yaw Amoateng. Yaw is a program manager at Microsoft working in the M365 core domain. He has over a whopping 18 years of experience and has expertise in tech and education management, corporate leadership. Yao is also a photographer at heart, so I hope you have some photographers in the building. Having introduced Yao, I will now leave the platform. And hello, Yao, how has it been?
Hi, great to be here, and thanks a lot for hosting me.
Great to have you, Yao. So I think you can just share a little bit of detail about yourself that you think we didn't quite capture. We want a fun fact, actually. So that would be nice, and then you can start your presentation, of course.
Okay, I would. It's part of my presentation. I had a deck where I share a little bit about me.
Great.
And so perhaps people can read, or should I say, follow along. Do you see my screen now? Oh, it's still loading.
No, it's loaded. We see your screen.
Okay, great. So good evening to all of you. I really appreciate the time that you've all taken to join, especially being a Friday. And so thanks a lot for joining. I'll just jump straight into it. So as I was introduced, my name is Yaw Amoateng, and I'm originally from Ghana, but currently based in Northern Europe in Norway, working with Microsoft. And it's been great having the opportunity to get to meet all of you and to interact and to share my experiences so far. What are some of the things that I've learned in my over 18 years journey, what I currently do, as well as what I think that everyone else, especially if you're in an early career, the things that you need to have at the back of your mind, the things you need to master, which would go with you along the journey as you pursue your career. And so today's discussion points, I'll touch a bit on my journey. We'll also go into the lessons I've learned, would dive into some growth hacks and skills that I think that will benefit most people in the community, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. Moving on, I would first like to thank the Kraado management and the community for the opportunity to get to speak with all of you. It's always nice to get to share, and it's one of the things that I enjoy doing, basically sharing the things that I've learned, and also helping people or working alongside with people for them to be able to meet what their goals or their career objectives are. And a good part of my 18 years journey had really been about education and working with a lot of young people. And so that is something that I have as a passion at core. And so when Kraado reached out and said, hey, can we do this? It was natural for me to say, yes, let's jump into it and do it. And so if you're on the call and you are not a member of the Kraado community, I think that you've already heard what the community is about and what they do. And so on my screen is just a little piece from the website. You could take a look. And I highly recommend that, you participate in the community if you're not a member, and you get to enjoy many more of such sessions. So thanks, So thanks again to the community leaders for having me. So to the question that I was asked, to talk a little bit about myself. There are a lot of details in there that you can read, but my career started off in early 2000, I think around 2002, when I saw an advert of an institution looking for teaching assistant. And this was an institution I was a student in, which is NIT Ghana. And so I just completed, I think, 1 year of my studies, and I applied to be like a TA. So at the time, what basically I helped do is, if the main or substantive instructor was going to the classroom to teach, you kind of like accompany. And in the environment, you help students to do, their project work and assignment and things like that. But I moved on. Eventually, I became a substantive technical instructor myself and moved through the ranks to eventually become the director for NIT Ghana. And there's been a lot of lessons that I learned along the way. In all of it, one thing that held true for me, it's not to lose sight of where you want to go in your journey. And I would say at this very early stage that dreams do come true. So whatever your aspirations are, whatever your dreams are, please hold on to it. If it doesn't happen today, it may happen tomorrow, it may happen 10 years to come, it may happen 15 years to come, but hold on to it and keep building on it. Because when I started working, I didn't have a degree at that time. I think I only had like a 1-year diploma, but I always had an interest to get a degree. And so along the line, I was contacted by a family friend that he's seen an advert in the newspaper. Am I still interested in pursuing my degree program? I said yes. So I got into his car. We got the admission form. To cut through the chase, I eventually ended up getting my first degree from Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology from Australia. But I started the education for this degree program right from Ghana. I think at the time they were in partnership with GIMPA under a program called the African Virtual University. So I completed that. I had a desire to have a master's degree. I was looking through many options. I eventually got the opportunity to do my master's degree from Coventry University, UK, and where I obtained a master's in IT management. At the core, when I started my IT career in early 2000, I'd always dreamed of working with the larger multinational tech companies. And the thinking behind it was, we're using all these IT tools. We're using, at the time, Visual Basic, Microsoft SQL, and things to teach people how to create software. But my desire had always been, we are using these tools to teach people how to create these things. But these tools that we are using have also been created by others. So I've always dreamt of being at the other side to see how do they create the things that we use to teach others to also create things. And it has always been a long-held dream that I had until 2018. I got an opportunity to be involved in an interview. Well, it wasn't like an interview pool, but like a career pool. And eventually in the year 2020, I got an opportunity to start a career with Microsoft. And so, like I said, dreams do come true. Hold on to it, keep believing it, but it shouldn't just be a wish or just a hope, right? You should begin to take steps towards that. And if you look at what I've just shared with you about my career, it wasn't just being a dream that I had and just sitting down and waiting for it to happen. But in between, I spent time to add value to myself. And the next lessons I'm going to share would really speak to just what I'm saying right now. The career journey would be different for all of us. So please don't be in the habit of putting pressure on yourself because you've seen other colleagues that you graduated college with, you graduated a university with, getting jobs in company A, company B, and you feel that that is where you also belong. We all don't have the same trajectory in reaching our target. So it's really about you picking up your pace, making sure that you're constantly growing, you're constantly learning, and you will get there. If you look at what you have on the screen right now, a lot of people may think, especially when you're in school, that a career journey will be linear, right? From school, maybe you do an internship, you get a job, and you move on, you move on, you move on. Very few people get to have their career that way. I'm not saying some people don't experience that. There are people whose career have just gone like that, boom, 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 and they are there. But to a lot of us, the career growth or journey can be very winding. If you take my story I just shared, from secondary school, I couldn't go straight to university. I did a 1-year diploma, I picked up a job and moved on from there. All of us will have different paths that our career journey will travel. And so you need to pick up at your own pace. The important thing is that you need to have a growth mindset, willing to learn new things. The reality is your first job in a lot of instances may not be your dream job, but please pick it up anyway, because the important thing is the life lessons that you learn, because those things prepare you for the ultimate target that you want to be able to reach. But it's important that you pick up those life lessons at a very early stage, because they build the foundation and the muscle that you need to carry on. I think I was in a presentation by the founder for Alibaba. I've just lost the name. And one of the things that he said was, in his first job, his manager was very, very harsh. And one of the things that really got to him was that when he eventually became a business owner, he didn't want to be like his boss. And that was a good lesson, right? And this is Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba. And so he worked tirelessly under this manager who was probably rude. He didn't like the lifestyle or the management style of this leader, but he worked anyway. And at the back of his mind, it was always like, one day when I become successful, I don't want to be like this type. And that is a very valuable lesson that he picked up. And at the end of the day, he's managed to maneuver from being that type of character. And so back to what I said earlier, your very first job may not necessarily be the dream job that you want to have. But if that is the opportunity you have currently, please pick it up anyway and do it well. Do it wholeheartedly, because there are valuable lessons in there that you learn that will actually propel you for the other things to come. And in a lot of instances also, the first few lessons and first job that you pick helps you to begin to build a foundation for your network. It enables you to get to know people. It enables you to get to have good contacts. It enables you to be able to know what are the opportunities that are out there within the space. And so be mentally prepared, willing to learn, and embark on your journey. So what are some of the skills that enable people to do well? I'm sure we've all heard a lot about networking. What is networking really? And typically back home in Ghana, we would usually say it's about who you know, right? And really, that is the truth. A lot of people make career moves really based on, recommendation by people or from people who know them. Because the truth is, if I can't really vouch for you, it's difficult for me to recommend you, because if I stick my neck out and I say, this person will be great, and you get hired and you are not great, it affects my credibility. And so what we typically say back home about who you know is what in the corporate world we would typically say networking. And this, I say, be deliberate about it and please do it well. Don't just be a member of, the community. Don't just join LinkedIn because everybody is on LinkedIn. So you also create a LinkedIn account and you are there and never interacting. Find people on LinkedIn that can inspire you. In some instances, you can send a connection request and they will accept it. In some instances, you need to learn to pick your fights. In some instances, some people are quite highly ranked, highly placed, and sending a connection request may not work, but LinkedIn gives you an option to follow. So you'll be able to follow, and the things that they share, you'll still get it in your LinkedIn feed. Because ideally, the LinkedIn connection request is really to establish an association, right? And so not everybody may want to have you within their network. But if you still are interested in things that they share, you can still follow them. So you are not within their close circle, but you still get to see the things that they share, and you can also begin to engage and learn from them. And in a lot of instances, we also advise people, if someone you are interested in connecting with makes a LinkedIn post, sometimes, and in a lot of instances, it's not just enough to just like it. You can use that as a start, but begin to engage. Be very deliberate about it. You can go read about the person, read about whatever they have posted, and comment. And which means that whatever you're commenting, you need to be sure that it is something that you are going to be able to land and land it well. In some instances, it may catch the person's eye. They may like your comment or they may respond to you. And that is where you begin to start engagement, right? And if they realize that you keep following and keep commenting on things that they share and you give good feedback, who knows? One day they may invite you into their circles and you become part of their network and they become part of yours as well. So it's important that you are not just a member of communities. And this is not just limited to LinkedIn. It could be the Kraado community, for example. It could be where you're working. There is a community, right? You attend a function. Don't just go to the function and walk around and go back home and enjoy good food. Introduce yourself to people. Let people know who you are. Also find out, ask people questions. Ask them what they do. It's about being deliberate and making sure that you are getting the right people into your circles that may impact you in future. A lot of these relationships sometimes may not have an immediate result, but the fact that you know certain people in certain places within your circles helps. And please also, my best advice would be, don't reach out to people within your network only when you need help, because then you become a nuisance. Tomorrow you reach out and nobody wants to respond, because whenever they hear from you, they know you are coming to ask for something. When you are reaching out to people, usually the best approach will be, what can you contribute to what they are doing? What can you do to make them successful? People like it that way. And tomorrow, they can also look back and see how best they can also offer you support. Communication is very, very important in an early career, and that carries you through all the way to when you hit your peak. Because communication really is about you letting people know what your thoughts are, and also if you're a master of communication, you are really able to woo people to your side. And this happens in both your verbal and your non-verbal communication skills. So it's very, very important, because how you communicate, how you market, package yourself, really is about who you are. And that is how people will know you for a very long time. So it's important that you learn the art of good verbal and non-verbal communication skills. And non-verbal here could be your good writing skills. It could be the other non-verbal cues that you give during presentation and things like that. Also, be a lifelong learner. Today's workplace is changing very, very drastically. And I think that for a very long time, we had all known that the world was going to get to a point where online will be the order of the day and things like that. I remember several years back, always used to crack the joke that, a time may come that if you went to church, for example, we may not have to pass things around to put offering in it. People may just bring up their phones and just send their offering and things like that. I used to joke about it. But last year till now, we all experience it real time, right? COVID accelerated the process really fast. So the workplace is constantly changing. And usually, employers may not necessarily hire you too much for what you know today, but usually it's about what ability does this person have? Is a person able to learn? Is this person teachable? Will this person be able to succeed in the role? And that is what sets you apart from others. Because during interviewing process, a lot of the questions that they are throwing at you usually is to dig up to see what have you done in the past to help them to understand what your learning process or pattern is. Are you able to adapt to different environments? And if we throw you in here into this other organization, which is probably completely new from where you are coming from, will you be able to catch up? Will you be able to succeed? And so it is important that you spend a lot of time learning and improving on yourself, and also being able to figure out how the world is going, what are the changing trends, and how do you adapt. These are things that would help you for a very long time to come. Another thing I would say is don't burn bridges. If you are in company A and you get the opportunity to move to a different organization, it's always important that you maintain good rapport and good relationship, such that if tomorrow you want to go to company A, even for a visit, you are welcome with open arms. This is very important, and it's one thing that I see a lot of people in their early career sometimes tend to overlook. The world is a very funny place, and sometimes things can come back at you in full circle. So you don't want the situation where tomorrow, for some reason, you need a referral and you won't get it. And a lot of big multinational companies will always go and dig your background. Before I joined Microsoft, there was a lot of background checks that I needed to go through, including the universities that I had attended, because they have the ability to do that. They have the agencies to do that. And it's not me going to pick my transcript from a school and send it to them and say that, I did this. No, they contacted the school directly. There was an instance where I got a letter saying that your school says they want your consent with your signature. So I had to print, sign, and send it back, and it was sent for verification. So if you have burnt bridges somewhere and you think that you're good to go, sometimes it can come back and bite you hard. And so it is important that you maintain good relationship with places that you have once been to and people that you have come across. Because like I said, you may never know when an opportunity will present itself, that it could be that place that will be the key to open the door for this new opportunity for you. And so it is very, very important to maintain good relationship and maintain good rapport. It may not be hi, hi, hello, hello, but at the end of the day, just make sure that you are leaving on a good note, clean your previous package nicely, and you can walk out of the door, feeling very proud of yourself. And tomorrow you can use that place as a reference and point back and say, I contributed to this. I was once upon a time here. I did this, and nobody will have any qualms about it. So it is very, very important that as you go along, you make sure that you establish good relationship and you don't burn those bridges. It's getting almost to the end of my time. And so I would share a few growth hacks. We've talked about learn and learn and learn, keep learning, learn new things, show your ability and whatnot. In the world we live in today, there are a lot of great tools that is available to us now that will enable us to be able to learn so many things than they were before. And so I encourage you to take advantage of it. I know that sometimes connectivity could be a challenge. However, some of these resources could also be in text form that you can just read. And I encourage you to develop the reading habit of just reading and reading materials, especially things that you're passionate about, things that fit in line with where you want to go, not where you are today, but where do you want to be, and begin to study and read materials around those. And here are a number of great resources like the Microsoft Learn, which has a lot of free content that you can actually go in and learn if you're interested in a lot of the technology stack. There is also Coursera, which has a great blend of content, tech, non-tech. Well, usually it's paid for, but you can also take advantage of the 7 days free, which means that you need to do a lot of work because you are typically giving 7 days free for a lot of the courses. And if you're able to finish your learning within the first 7 days, you get it for free. So you don't pay for it. But you're charged, when you go beyond the 7 days or you stop the learning. And so if you want to take advantage of that, I did that last year, December anyway. I signed up for a program in good business writing skills. And I made sure that I completed it during the Christmas period because I was off from work. And I completed it within 6 days. But that meant that I had to spend sometimes like 4 hours a day just learning, going through the videos and all of that. And I completed the lesson in 6 days. And I had my certificate. And so, the options are available. You could also look at LinkedIn Learning, which has a lot of resources. I use that a lot to learn things related to my work, areas that I want to improve, areas that I want to be a master of. They are a great blend of free and paid materials also on LinkedIn. So you can, take advantage of it. If you don't have the funding or the cash to go for the paying, you could start with the free learning materials. If you also want to learn and get to know, what people are thinking, where people have been to. A lot of people write great blogs on Medium. And so you can take advantage of it and read about people and what you're thinking. YouTube is a great resource that we have in our world today that you can actually use it to learn incredibly almost anything, right? You heard the intro that I'm a photographer at heart. I actually started learning photography from YouTube by joining classes on YouTube. There's a photography class people have recorded and made it available for free. So I started watching, getting to know about different cameras and all of that. And that helped me. Back home in Ghana, I did quite a number of gigs in photography. I covered some graduation events. I've covered a wedding event. I covered a pull-out parade by a commanding officer. And if you know about the military, where they do like a pull-out parade, if somebody had to go on retirement, it's a whole, setup on its own. I covered a pull-out parade. I covered an event by EcoBank. So I had fun, basically on weekends going out there and doing something that I was passionate about. But how did I start it? I started learning from YouTube. There are also podcasts if you like to listen to audio, and you can get great podcasts. There's one that I can recommend for you, How I Built This. It's a great podcast. You can check it out, where people, especially if you're an entrepreneur or you're looking to go in that direction, or just being curious, you can listen to great podcasts, and it comes in audio. So people who, maybe you are stuck in the bus going home or something like that, you can listen to the audio. And Twitter. Take advantage of Twitter. It's a great resource we have in our world today, where it's not about you getting on Twitter and looking at how many followers I have. You may not have even 10 followers, but there's a lot of things that you can learn by basically following people who inspire you, institutions that give you a lot of inspiration, or you even aspire to work with one day. Follow, see what they are, commenting on, what they are sharing. There's a lot of interesting things on Twitter, like people sometimes will, tweet like a thread. And I personally learn a lot from people through Twitter because they share a lot of great value that helps me for my career as well as even for my work as well. And so these are a few of the things that I'll recommend to you. And there are a lot more out there once you kick off your journey. So I see that we are 1 minute to my time. And so I'd like to say thank you all very much. Really appreciate you joining this session. I hope that you've learned a thing or two. And I'm happy to take your questions and we can continue the conversation afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yaw. Yeah, that was an excellent delivery, and we really appreciate every bit of it, especially for the LinkedIn. All the parts were great. I love the LinkedIn part because it can get awkward when you're cold messaging people, kind of stalking them in the right way. So for someone who has done it and is being successful in sharing their insight with us, it's really appreciated. And we'll move on to the next session, which is the next segment, which is the Q&A. Stefan, please kindly pull up the Q&A questions as I ask the live audience their questions. Of course, we are not going to turn on our mics, but I'll just read some few questions, starting with one from Susu. Okay, Susu's question goes this way. Please, what are some of the tips for getting better communication, into bracket presentation? P.S. I admire how you talk and present. Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot for the question. Is it Sosu?
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. So for presentation tips, I would recommend that you, again, check YouTube, right? People do presentations. For me personally, the tips I use is usually I watch keynote deliveries. So for example, Microsoft is having a major event. There's a keynote address by, our CEO, Satya. So I watch keynote delivered by other people from other organizations. I watch, like, for example, Apple launches a product. I watch how they do the presentation. I pay attention to how newscasters, for example, present. I like to watch the news a lot, and I watch how they present, how they conduct themselves, their body mannerisms, and things like that. And so I pick lessons from there. And I also have people within my circles who are great orators and great presenters. One of them is on the call today, and usually I pick cues from them. So one, it's about, if that's what you're interested in and you're passionate about it, go for it. Meaning that you've got to put in a little bit of work, begin to watch how others do it. That is learning by observation. And then you need to start practicing, which is learning by doing. So if you observe others do it, now you need to step out there and do it. It could be to your family members. It could be to your classmates. It could be to your colleagues at work. But you need to start from somewhere. And once you start doing that and you build confidence, you realize that you can stand before a crowd and you won't feel intimidated. I hope I answered your question.
Susu is in the audience. So you can just put an emoji or a message in the chat, just in case he's gotten your questions answered. Okay, so one question from Beta. Beta says, please, I'm doing graphic design and web designing, and I want to know what to do to be a great graphics and web designer.
Yeah, I mean that's really a nice one, and I like working with graphic and web designers. I recently started working with graphic designers, or we call them the creative designers in Microsoft, and it is fun to see how they put all the creativity, and their thoughts together. How to be good at it, again, similar to the presentation I just shared, take a look at how others do it, right? And also, since that is a domain that you are in, like for me, who is passionate about photography, when I attend events and I see people holding camera, I'm usually just glued and tilted to it. So I may attend your wedding event and I may not be in the auditorium because I'm busily looking at the photographers who are around, looking at how they are positioning themselves, looking at which cameras they are carrying, and then the like, because that's what I'm passionate about. And so I would encourage you to, be observant. And sometimes some of the skills that you've picked along the line, begin to apply them. You may see a billboard advert and you can immediately point out, for example, some of the things that they could have done to improve it because you have some knowledge, right? And also do a bit of peer buddying. Like you could have somebody who is great in graphic design and you could do some of your work and let them, just scrutinize it or give you a feedback. And that is also how you grow, because when others give you a feedback, it helps you to look at it from a different angle.
Okay, all right. Thank you for throwing light on that. Yeah, there's a question from Charles, but I'll hold on. Then we'll take one question from Selassie. This question was sent during the registration. Selassie said, for someone changing career fields, what should I do to position myself for entry into the new field?
That is a great question. And again, it comes back to your ability to learn something new, right? when I did a transition from being in the tech education space into pure production of, tech software, the transition is vast. Is huge, the difference, right? But it comes back to, are you willing to learn? So you are doing a transition from one career to the next. It may be in line, it may be different. But the important thing is that you need to pick up new tools. You need to pick up new skill sets. You need to pick up new experiences. But don't discount the early learnings that you've had from your other place. The environment could be different, but there are things that will still help you to get along. And those things could be things like when you're in the former place, you were keen on learning new skills. So that helped you to transition. When you were at the former place, perhaps you learn things about people management. So you transition to a new place where you are not a manager necessarily, but because you have a people management skills, it helps you to be able to collaborate with others, get to see things a little bit differently from how others see it. And that could become an advantage to you. And I recommend that you always tilt towards what gives you an advantage whilst you build up on your weakness. Don't focus on the weakness, focus on your strength and build up on your weakness.
Okay, thank you. Angelina's question is, what is the most important value to look out for when starting a career?
That is an interesting one. It could be in so many other places. However, if I'm putting it into a mental model, I would say that if you're starting early, look out for that this place gives me growth, right? You're getting into an early job. Would you have the opportunity to pick up things? Will you get the opportunity? If I say pick up things, I mean to learn some new skills. Now, this is very, very important because, and here it could be a startup, it could be a well-established institution. Typically, if you are, for example, working with a startup, you get the opportunity to be part of the foundation blocks, right? We are all in it together. We all don't know much. We are all learning from the beginning. If it's a well-established institution, some things are already in place. And so you are in a way better guided. Each of these environments have an advantage and has a disadvantage, but they all add some value to you. For example, if you're in a well-established institution, the advantage you get is that there are certain pitfalls or certain mistakes that you can avoid because they have structures in place to guide you. If you are in a startup, you can make those mistakes. But startups also give you an opportunity to learn things from different places, which you may not get the opportunity to do in a very formalized, well-established institution. And so either way, there's an advantage for you, but the ability to be able to learn, you always, a lot of instances don't have an option to decide on who your manager should be. But be it a good or a bad manager, pick up some lessons from there because you are in an early career. And like I said, your first job, your first career may not necessarily be the dream one that you have, but learn something from there whilst building on yourself to move on to the next level.
Okay, all right, thank you. The next question is from Asabia Ado. This is from the live audience. The question goes, most people advise on being exceptional in your field. For instance, if everyone in your field is exceptional in delivering of the service, then how do you stand out amongst excellent people?
That is a great question, and thanks Asabia for asking that. It's quite should I say, we typically would say, well, I mean, not say, but usually people have it in their minds that they need to figure out everything about the work to be successful. In a lot of instances, that is not the case, because you can't be it all and know it all. But in an organization where everyone else is excelling, and if I take like Microsoft, you get to work with some of the best brains in the world. You'll have colleagues who work directly with you, sit next to you, who are PhD holders, right? And perhaps you don't even have a degree, or you only have your first degree. You can get to pick a lot of these lessons. But how do you stand out? Again, comes back to what you are made of, who you are, what makes you different. It's not really about you trying to be like the next person. Be inspired by others, but don't necessarily try to be like somebody. Because the reality is that you don't know what the person had gone through to become who they are. So they can be an inspiration to you. They can be people who challenge you to come up with your best. But it's really about who you are and what makes you different. When you find that and you begin to let that show, you realize that you are in the midst of a lot of competing people, but at the end of the day, there's always something about you that makes you different. And that is where you get to stand out.
Okay. All right. Asabi, I hope your question has been answered. If not, we can still take it out to the behind the scenes, okay? The next question is from Sani. What are the top 3 skills you think are essential for early career in any field? I know you answered that, but if you can still answer this one. Yeah.
I don't know if my deck is still showing, but I'll quickly go back to it. I talked about networking, I talked about communication, and I talked about being a lifelong learner. These 3 things, I think, that are the foundation that will help you to excel in any field, because these are not tied to software engineering or being in IT or tech. These are not tied to being a medical doctor. These are not tied to, being a photographer. These are not tied to you wanting to set up a bakery. These are not tied to you wanting to start some startup, in your neighborhood or wherever. These cut across. Who are the people within your circles? Who do you know? Who can give you a referral? How do people know who you are? Through your communication and what make you stand out. And are you willing to learn new things? These things will really go a long way for you, I would say.
Okay. Thank you, Yaw. Wow, that's a long one from Hartwell. Hartwell is in the live audience, but I will still read his question before I move to the next question from Asabia. What do companies look at more critically with regards to employees who are still early in their career, soft skills or technical skills? The tech industry would understandably be more interested in technical skills, but would these require some experiences to develop, and how do you advise we cope during the formative years? Should I take that again, or?
Yeah, I think I can see it on the screen. So okay. Yeah, thanks. And that was from who again? I think I missed the name. Hartwell.
Hartwell, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Hartwell, for your question. So it's not binary. It's not this or that. You need to have both, especially since you talk about the tech industry. Soft skills is very, very critical, because in a place like Microsoft, the culture is very important to us. What will you fit into the organization culture? Will you come in and either be pushy, be bossy, or will you come in and not be willing to collaborate with others because you always just want to do things by yourself and keep it to yourself? So the soft skills that you acquire are very, very essential. However, depending on which field, you need to know, or you at least need to have the basics of what are the tools or technical things that will enable you to succeed in that role, right? Because if you want to be, say, a tailor or a seamstress, you need to learn how to cut. You can't just say, I'm able to communicate well and I have good, people relationship, and so the business should boom. No, you should be able to cut well. You should be able to sew properly. But at the end of the day, you also need to be able to learn how to handle your customers. And so that goes for any other institution. If you want to get into IT, you need to get your technical things on point. But the culture, who you are, how you deal with people, how you relate, and all of that, it's very, very important, because you can be technically good, but nobody would want to work with you because of certain things that nobody wants to be associated with. And so I would say that both are important in this scenario. Your soft skills definitely need to be top-notch. You need to be on point on that, but you need to master the tools or the technical skills for whichever sector that you want to go in.
Okay, and we agree. The Kraado community and all of us, we agree that it's very critical to have both. So the next question is from Asabia again. Asabia is asking about networking related questions. So sometimes networking with people of higher ranks can be very intimidating, even if you know what you're about. How is confidence built as a young career personnel?
Thanks, Asabia, for I think this is the second question from Asabia, if
Right.
I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Thanks for following up again. So, like I said, you need to pick your battles, right? But usually, if you have an opportunity to interact with this person of high standing, I'll say take your shot. However, you need to have good thinking through, because you would want to leave a mark, right? So about confidence building, usually if you are an introvert or you are the person who is not used to it, then you need to start from somewhere. So that's why I gave the earlier example. Probably start from your community, maybe start from a church, getting to know people, see how you introduce yourself. What are the initial questions you ask people when you meet them for the first time? That is how you build courage. Usually it doesn't happen overnight. I'm not here today presenting to you like this is my first presentation I've ever done in my life, right? I've done it for a period. And so when I get the opportunity to communicate, it doesn't come to me naturally. I still have to do some preparation. I still had to spend time putting together the deck, trying to figure out what do I want to share, why do I want to say this, at what point in time, how should the arrangement be, get some people that I have high regard for to go through the presentation and give me validation that, okay, this one, maybe put this one here, change this, do this way, before I'm able to even come to you to talk to you today. So it takes a bit of preparation. But once that is what you aim to do, you will get there. So just keep practicing it, and don't let their high standing be a barrier to you. If you have the opportunity, I'll say take it, but just make sure that you land it well so that they can remember you.
Yeah, that's spot on. Well, the conversation here is really engaging. Some people are sharing tips here and there, but let's go back to Yaw. There was a question from Charles. What's a day like at Microsoft?
That's interesting. A day at Microsoft is a lot of thinking, I would say. It's interesting the amount of effort in just brainstorming and thinking that goes on before we're able to come up with the product that people love to use and the product that gives a lot of people the opportunity to be their best selves and to be able to do more. And so on a typical day, like weekends, I switch off, but Sunday night, I start prepping for Monday because I have stand-ups and I need to be in a mind where I know what I'm going to be focusing on this week, which also links up to the objective I've set for myself for, say, the quarter or for the semester. And when I say a semester, I mean like half a year, like 6 months. And so whatever that I'm doing on any given day, I'm establishing the linkages that I said by the end of this semester or the end of this quarter, we should land this. So this activity that I'm doing, how does it move the metric? How does it bring me closer to achieving that objective? And so I say on a daily basis, it's fun getting to, interact with really best brains across the org and interacting with people from different continents, working on different products, interacting with legal people, because you don't just ship a product. A lot of it have legal consequences. And so interacting with legal teams to also figure out what they think legally. And sometimes all the feedback they give you are things that you have not even thought of. And so it becomes quite exciting to see how others are thinking through the same product that you are working on or you are looking to ship. And so on a typical day, I say that it's a lot of brainstorming, a lot of unpacking, a lot of thinking, but at the end of the day, connecting the dots and making sure that we're able to deliver the best value for people. And that becomes the inspiration. Kafi, I think you are muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, time flies. We have done 1 hour and counting, and we really have to end. So we're ending with Richard, and then we'll make an announcement and we'll take the conversation backstage or offline. Richard's question: as a graduate who is about to launch himself into the job market, would you advise that a job offer be accepted from a business that has a lot of potential but no structure? 2, where can a person with an entrepreneurial mindset really learn from when starting his career to eventually establish himself, big corporation or startup company?
Okay, so there are 2 questions here, so I'll split it that way. So the first one is, to launch yourself, job market, will you advise that? Okay, so the business really doesn't have a structure, but you think that they have potential. It's tricky. Maybe my question, and you don't have to answer, is what are the other offers that you have, right? So if you have more than one offer, then you can look into which one should I go for. And so in this scenario, if you have more than one offer and one company A really doesn't have structure, but then you say it has potential, I don't know from what analysis you establish that potential, because it shouldn't just be in a vacuum because you think they have potential. Certain things must add up. And you have company B that has structure and is thriving, they have a track record, then it's really for you to, decide on which way you want to go. Because like I said earlier, businesses that don't have structure may help you to be able to learn a lot of things, because like jack of all trade, because you get to do so many things at the same time. But then businesses that have structure guide you, and you're able to learn how things have been structured and what is in which department and how do they do things. Sometimes that can also be a very narrow tunnel, because where you are or in which org that you are in, you only know things around that, because the structure is such a way that you can't go do the HR work when you are supposed to be, say, the technical lead. Whereas the one that doesn't have structure, you can end up doing almost anything else. So it's really about what are the values you want to learn at that early stage, if you have more than one offer. But if you don't have more than one, and the only offer that you have is from this organization that really doesn't have structure, but you think that it has a potential, the reality is that, what are your options? You really don't have an option. That is the only one presented to you today. And nobody forces you to work. And so perhaps you may want to take that and look for a brighter day where another institution comes along that has what suits what you're looking for, and perhaps you can make a jump. So to your second question, it looks like I might have answered part of that in the earlier answer, which is you are looking to become an entrepreneurial person. So do you start with a startup or with a big corporate firm? Again, it comes back to the same point. You want to be entrepreneurial, but big corporate firm, startup, all of them will give you some value. So if you have an option for either of them, I would say go for it. But it's really about, what are the lessons I want to learn now? Startups give you an opportunity to experiment with a lot of things. Corporate firm give you structure. They give you security. And at the end of the day, they help you to also see how best, if tomorrow you start your own business, you may want to structure things. So either of them could be fine, but it depends on what you want to learn.
Okay, thank you, Yaw. We're going to cap the questions at Richard, but then Agnes' question is a valid one that I know most of us go through that. So if you can please answer this question: how in your experience should I deal with anxiety in relations to developing skills needed for career?
Okay, thanks, Agnes. If you say dealing with anxiety, are we talking about like impostor syndrome or anxiety as in learning? I want to believe that it's anxiety related to, will I be able to do this? Is that the understanding?
We don't
want
have
to get it right.
Yeah, we don't have Agnes here, so
okay. So I'll try and answer it maybe how I understood it. So if it's related to what we call impostor syndrome, where you are in there, you've got the opportunity, you've got a job, but now you see that this is huge. And then you begin to feel, will I be able to do this? We all go through that. We all go through that, and we all suffer it. However, it's the support structures that you have in scenarios like this that really help you. When I got into Microsoft and I saw the vast amount of knowledge, the people, the work, the things that I needed to do, it felt like I was back into university. I was back to college. It was more like learning than actually working. And I spent nights trying to understand, because they use a lot of terminologies. There's a lot of documentation, a lot of things that one needs to really try and understand and to have meaningful conversation. And there were a lot of nights and a lot of times where I felt, will I even survive? Can I really do this? But talking to people who I really trust, and again, it comes back to who do you have within your circles, right? And people sharing their stories with you, and people encouraging you and letting you know that it's possible, and they sharing what they have gone through and also pointing you in the right direction, ultimately help you to get along. So if you are on the call and you are feeling like that, you are not the first person, and it's not new. A lot of us go through that almost all the time. However, to the point that I made earlier, are you willing to learn something new? And if you are willing to learn and you have a growth mindset, then muster the courage and go for it. At the end of the day, like we say, what is the worst thing that could happen, right? At the end of the day, if you give it a shot, what is the worst thing that could happen? Perhaps the worst thing that can ever happen is that you get fired, but you won't die. But in a lot of organizations, they may allow room for growth and for people to make mistakes, especially if they know that you are new. They may not put you on the mission critical job where you end up breaking something that will bring the whole company down. And so muster the courage and give it your best shot, because you learn through the process. But also have people within your circles that you can engage, and they give you the fuel to go on. Yep.
Yes, it's a very good way to end this session today. Thank you so much, Yaw. We had so many questions that we couldn't finish, but that's why we have you as a coach. And we've launched our coaching, the interface on the website where people can book. So community members, if you're listening, go to our website and book for Yaw's session, book a private session with Yaw. It's free. So, but then please don't bombard him because he's a busy man. So send your request and then we'll make sure you get to have a chance with Yaw to get the coaching and the training that you need to succeed. We have two roles currently. We have a role, marketing associate in an insurance company. It's an intern role that will lead to a full-time based on performance. And then the second one, which is a cloud-based company, is looking for a business development lead. So if you know anyone, please tell them about this or let them reach out to me or Stefan. Thank you so much for being with us this evening, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks where we're going to have a session with the recruiter. Thank you, Yaw, and see you later. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you too. Bye.